Item 5.2 is a notice of motion, standing orders amendment. Call upon Mr. Councillor Danny Lachlan to speak to and move his motion, which has already been seconded by Councillor Park.
Yeah.
Councillor Lachlan.
You happy for me here? Or?
Yes, here.
I did ask a question, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to take this paper as read. It's pretty clear what it means. There's been a lot of noise on Facebook, as you can imagine, but you know, a notice of motion is just that. It's for the purposes of putting a motion to council, and it's not for any other reason that people might want to make up as being democracy or anything else. I'm clear about what democracy is. We have our councillors and they make decisions, and they're elected by the people of Tō. I won't talk any more about other things. So yeah, that's what's in front of us, and happy to obviously move my resolution because Councillor Parker seconded. Happy to take any questions, clarification.
Ask the seconder if you want to say anything. Seconder?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I believe that as a team, it is all up to us to foster a culture where all councillors are encouraged to support each other, even if we don't fully agree at times. And I think it's fair to say that that happens in quite a robust way, but we all get up from the table and move away in a congenial way. I also believe that seconding them can help shape a well-rounded debate and helps develop sort of people who are probably newer to the governance role than others, helps to foster relationships. Also, as we all know, governance is about strategic oversight, and I believe that if councillors are to have a discussion, not necessarily make a predetermined decision, but to have a discussion, you can then have a more strategic conversation about notices of motion being put forward, ensuring that any issues that may be brought forward sort of align with the governance vision and of the Traineum, and that there's a reasonable chance of contributing positively to its objectives. I also believe that with the seconder, at least if a notice of motion comes to the table and the mover doesn't feel like they have the support, at least if they have a seconder, there is at least two people at the table that do see value, and it reflects that the proposal is just not one individual's idea or personal view, but it then does have initial support to allow a full and frank debate amongst the colleagues at the table. And that is why I find this a good practice in governance, and it doesn't preclude any discussions, it doesn't preclude any notices of motion, it just helps make notices of motion more succinct, more clear. And if you come in with some support around the table, at least you're going to get a lot better chance of getting your point across the line and perhaps even making some decision making that you're after. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Anyone else want to talk to the item? Councillor Campbell.
So I do have quite a bit to say about this. I believe it's quite a significant element of our democracy. First, I want to applaud the author of this notice of motion being motivated enough to put up a notice of motion, and that it seems to be presented in such a way, for example, to give all practical options, which was actually the topic of one of my items last month. Apparently deemed to be frivolous or vexatious. However, that is about as far as my praise will go, because as far as I can tell, this item is quite transparently targeted at myself or any other elected member who wants to table their own items to council agenda instead of following the program set before us by our Mayor and CEO. If this notice of motion is passed, then I believe it will be nothing less than an appalling and shameful indictment of the way Taupo District Council treats its elected members in terms of their freedom of expression. Now, I mention myself because I am the only member to have submitted any items to any council agenda this term, apart from this one here, or the previous term to the best of my knowledge. But for the record, virtually all of my items I've submitted are on topics which I have previously been unable to have reasoned debate or discussion in chambers because it gets shut down early on in an informal setting. That's my experience. Having done a handful of notice of motions, I can claim to have a deeper understanding of the potential ramifications of this item, which some of you might not realise. Giving as much benefit to the doubt of the author, I think that perhaps ignorance about the time and effort required to prepare a notice of motion may have something to do with it. So others, please take note. However, the author seems to have a little understanding of due process and why it exists, and seems to have a poor recollection of events as well. Danny.
Point of order, Your Worship. The member is criticising another councillor. He's not addressing the notice of motion. He's addressing the mover, and it's not appropriate. I'd ask him to review the relevance of his comments and stick to the point in which we have before us.
Through the chair, some claims were made to the paper about the way I moved some of my items.
Same thing, Your Worship. He is just simply carrying on.
Through the chair,
I'll give the member another couple of minutes and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Worship. It was said that I, as mover, this is said in your paper, proceeded to debate the issue without a seconder, even though a seconder was only asked at the end of discussion. And there's also inference I'm hearing that just because an item does not receive a seconder, then that means it could be either vexatious or frivolous, or somehow not meet the requirements of the Local Government Act. The format we currently have is for the mover to be given 5 minutes to introduce, immediately following which some questions may be asked before asking to be seconded. This makes logical sense to me because items need to be properly presented and debated before they are worthy to vote on. But requiring a seconder before each and every item is even accepted for an agenda, I believe places an unreasonable burden to somehow do all of this beforehand. Now my July item for a workshop to happen for the Northern Access Transport Study, which was passed by minority decision.
All right, I think we've got the point that the member is making. I'll cut it off at that. Thanks, Councillor. All asking here is for a seconder. You can keep bringing notice of motion if you got a seconder, which is what we don't want to be time wasting. So I think we've got the message. Sorry, order, please, order. That'll be enough from the member. Thank you. Back to the mover. Is any other councillors got any questions? Councillor Williamson.
I haven't got any questions. I just want to thought about this, quite carefully, as we probably all have. Is it undemocratic for a notice of motion mover not to be able to present with a meeting without a seconder? And it's just my thoughts on this are that lately this, obviously without major abuse of the code of conduct, is flirting, the members flirting, and it applied to anybody flirting that related to members, is showing a pattern in my mind, and then unnecessary notice of motion that have been referred either discussed with committees or could be dealt through the chair or another forum. So I understand. I know that Local Government New Zealand standing template, the majority don't define needing a seconder, but I think Auckland might be one of the exceptions. So a little bit of homework on. But I don't think there's some commentary in the community and abuse of due process. Well, that's I don't agree with that. So basically, I will support the notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Any Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I'd also read the notice of motion, and I have to say, my initial reaction was somewhat reserved. However, notices of motion should be about the core business of council at hand, and not an opportunity for someone to simply have 5 minutes unfettered access to a microphone to say whatever they wish to say whether or not it's got anything to do with council business. So having a seconder would actually require each of us to, heaven forbid, talk to our colleagues and get some agreement, because you're not going to get a motion or notice of motion across the line without agreement around the table. And the first step would be getting a seconder, which seems to me to be an eminently sensible way to do it. And as we've been reminded endlessly over the last 2 years about how things are done in Auckland, I'm surprised that the councillor sitting next to me doesn't want to do this, because that's how they do it in Auckland.
Councillor Shepherd.
It's not so much it's more I'd like to address Councillor Campbell, if that's okay. Councillor Campbell, you have approached me on occasion to second your notices of motion, and I have done that on occasion when I felt that there was some significant reason for open and transparent debate. I would be happy for you to continue to do that. The reason why I haven't been able to support your notices of motion lately is because of the way that they've been worded. And perhaps if you were to speak to some of us and get a seconder, that might just mitigate that, and that might give you a better chance of being able to speak to your topic.
Right. Just a quick reply, Councillor Campbell.
Your Worship, I see this as a very important element of our democratic process for having open and transparent conversations. I think I deserve a chance to give my full and proper response, which I have spent quite some time preparing this. I actually honestly do believe this is a very important thing, and I don't think it's frivolous or vexatious for me to ask for that chance.
Thank you. I think we got the point earlier.
No, I don't think you have got the point. Your Worship.
I'll rule to order here, please. I'll rule to order. The member will speak. Please. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. No more. Thank you. Back to the mover of the resolution. Councillor Lachlan, have you got any final comments? The original recommendation?
No, Your Worship, it all stands as it is.
Okay.
Movers and seconders and putting a motion is all part of democracy. Got it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll put the motion.
So just
up on the table.
Just for clarification, a change to standing orders requires a 75% majority
75%.
of those voting.
Okay, so 2, 4. Right, we'll do the numbers after we vote. Okay, the resolution, there it is. Recommendation. Yeah, that each notice of motion needs a seconder. Basically, Mr. McCaddy, that's correct up there. As per tabled by Councillor Lachlan and seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please raise your hands. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Well, shame on you.
Item 5.3, notice of motion. Sir Campbell.
Okay. Let's go.
Because these notice of motions were submitted ahead of the meeting, we've deemed that they would be applied in terms of normal process, and this change would take effect the next day.